People want to read about the things they have their money in. Like, people are very interested in crypto when they're investing thousands upon thousands of dollars in different things. It's kind of like a religion. Like, Ethereum and Bitcoin are like religions, and how much people care about them.
So to start off, I'm guessing the first 10 or so thousand subscribers just came from Sean.
Yeah, he tweeted about it. I think what we had said to launch it was, we're going to put $1 million into crypto. And everyone was like, oh, that's awesome. We actually lost about $800,000 of that million.
FTX collapsed. The total market cap of the crypto sector is now half.
The collapse of Terra Luna.
What's the most interesting thing you've ever kind of gotten DM'd?
A guy that founded Silk Road reached out before to talk to us. So one of the main 3 guys.
What's the worst advice you've ever received about newsletters?
That it's easy.
Ben, welcome to the podcast, man.
What's up, guys?
So we're in Austin right now.
Yes,
My First Million's live podcast was last night. You were there.
I was. It's a great time. What did you guys think?
It was good. What did you think?
I thought the most interesting thing was the diversity of how many people came. Like, I think they always, was it the guys that were like, oh, a bunch of neckbeards listen to the podcast. And then it's like, there was some women there too. I think we joked that there's only 4 female fans, but I'm pretty sure I counted like at least 10 women. Yeah,
there.
15, 20 at least.
Yeah, so 15 to 20 is a big step up.
There we go. Yeah.
I feel like it's always hard to entertain like a group live. And so especially in podcast format where they're not like jumping around, but they did a good job of it. People were asking the weirdest questions though.
Yeah, I remember one guy was like, what's the future of podcasting in 10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no clue. I don't think anyone has a clue about the future in 10 years with anything. But yeah, it was a great show. I thought there was a lot of good energy, a lot of dope people. But yeah, it was awesome.
So let's talk about Sean for a second. You guys co-founded the Milk Road together.
We did.
Okay, how did you meet Sean?
So Sean and I met 3 years ago. So the story of Sean and I meeting is I was an early listener of the pod, probably first, few thousand listeners. And I was running a startup at the time. I joined the Facebook group for My First Million, and Sean was testing a product. Basically, he was testing an idea of a mastermind. So he was like, I'm looking for 6 CEOs running companies doing $1 million a year or more for a monthly meetup. I joined that. I think it was $500 a month. And then I joined that, and then we became friends. Basically, he was like talking everyone through their businesses. We became friends. And I was giving everyone a bunch of feedback, and he was like, I like your juice. I like your energy. Nice. And then we became friends. And then I was like, I'm looking to figure out what to do next. So from there, we basically were like, all right, why don't we try some projects together? So we've been working together about 2.5 years since then.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Nice. And then how did the Milk Road come about? Because I feel like the newsletter thing has been, I don't want to say played out, but there's definitely been a lot of newsletters in the last 5-6 years start to pop up. What made you guys realize that you could do it differently?
I think I'm a big believer in building products that you have the need for. So in our case, it was like, trying to keep up with crypto is really hard. Especially at that time, there was nothing, there was Bankless, there was Blockworks, a few other media companies, but we felt like, those are all over our head. Frankly, we were like, we kind of understand 10% of what they say. Yeah. We want to keep up to date. So we were like, let's just build what we want. And we understood the business model. We're friends with Sam from The Hustle, Austin from Morning Brew. So we were like, let's just try this. So we came up with the idea at this conference called FarmCon, which is like a farming conference. We were in Kansas City. It was freezing cold. And we were like, fuck it. Like, let's just do it. Let's write it right now. I think most people would be like, let's do a newsletter. Let's think about it. Let's brainstorm and then never send an edition. We were like, all right, we're going to write it right now and send it to 10 people.
At a farm conference?
3 hours at a farming conference.
Why were you at a farming conference to begin with?
We got invited. Sean got invited to speak at a farming conference, and we were like, sounds kind of interesting and cool, and it's an excuse to hang out in a different setting. So we were like, I guess let's go. And one of our friends was supposed to come, this guy named Suli, who's also been on the pod, successful entrepreneur. And last minute, he was like, it's too fucking cold for me. I'm not going. So it was just Sean and I, and we were like, all right. That was an awesome conference. That was that like that. I think that happened. We wouldn't have done it if we weren't at the conference, because we were just sitting there brainstorming ideas. And and 2, it was just cool to be in a different setting.
Nice.
That was the first newsletter I ever subscribed to. Milk Road.
There we go. Thank you. And now there's many Milk Road copies. Every day I see like a Sports Road, or I think I saw something called Copy Road yesterday. So yeah, I guess we're proud now that people are doing Milk Road for X. But yeah, we tried to, I think we were always like, how do we just make the product that we want? And that's what we try to do every time.
So what did it look like to put together the team? Was it initially just you and Sean?
Yeah, so we started just Sean and I. We were always really lean though. Like basically, I think the most we ever had was like 2 other people.
Okay.
So it was all, newsletter businesses are great because they're really lean. You really only need great content and one person to sell ads. So we were really lean. We basically had me running the business, Sean helping promote the business, helping with content, helping with strategic things. We had one other guy writing, and then we had one person doing ad sales, and that was it.
So to start off, I'm guessing the first 10 or so thousand subscribers just came from Sean.
Yeah, he tweeted about it. I think what we had said to launch it was we're going to put $1 million into crypto, and you guys can watch us. We're trying to turn $1 million into 10 million. And everyone was like, "Oh, that's awesome." We actually lost about $800,000 of that million.
Great.
Maybe all of it. We put $250,000 into Luna, went to zero. 3 months later, we decided to buy a CryptoPunk instead of a Bored Ape in February of last year, and I think the CryptoPunk is down $200,000, and the Bored Ape would have been up a lot. So yeah, but it was a good marketing hook. But it cost us $800,000.
Shoot.
So we said that probably got the first 25, 30,000 subs because we were we're going to tell you what we're doing and what we're thinking about. And then after that, we tweeted a bunch. We ran some paid ads and it grew organically quite a bit too.
Organically, how? Was there a Twitter strategy?
A little bit. It was kind of me fumbling through Twitter. It was more people really liked the brand and the way we wrote. And then when things happened, they'd be go read it on Milk Road. When Luna happened last May, or, there was 5 or 6 key moments, I think, that brought us a lot of traffic. Luna was a big one. Before that, Do Kwon just had a bunch of interesting things where he'd make crazy bets, which, we all probably remember.
Yeah.
There was also a bunch of crazy SBF stuff happening. That happened a lot. The big FTX crash happened later, but there was always something interesting. And I think, a lot of people are trying to do newsletters. I think the biggest difference between what we were doing and most other categories is people want to read about the things they have their money in.
That's a good point.
People are very interested in crypto when they're investing thousands upon thousands of dollars in different things. Is what we realized. It's kind of like a religion. Ethereum and Bitcoin are like religions.
Interesting.
And how much people care about them.
Why do you think AI newsletters have worked, but also not to the same extent where there's one that kind of takes over the rest?
Well, one, I think people think newsletters are really interesting, really easy businesses. So there's just more people doing it. I think people hear our story and hear other stories and they're wow, they sold it for millions of dollars after a year. We should do that. So I think that's a factor. I also think there's just pure hype right now. We're still very early in the days of AI. I think someone will probably emerge, mainly the person that sticks with it long enough and has the best content. I don't know. For me personally, every time I read the newsletters, I don't feel they're incredibly differentiated.
Okay.
Product-wise. Also, I think it's just a fundamentally different category in the sense that it's just a bunch of links and a bunch of tools. And I think there is fatigue of reading a bunch of tools in the same way that I think Product Hunt has a bunch of fatigue. You can only look at so many new things unless you're really, really deep.
So one thing we have that we're working on is our own Founders Inc. newsletter. And so I'm trying to think okay, there's no real way for you to be able to put it's not you're putting your money in Founders Inc. for the most part, unless you're one of the few kind of people who are invested. We're trying to figure out what the other angle is, right? And so initially it was just a community newsletter, and then it kind of shifted to be more spotlighting the founders that are in our portfolio. Now I'm starting to wonder, what if it was the same way they kind of talked about crypto and you could put your money into it? What if we created almost every single week you talk about some really, really early stage niche company, and it's a good source of deal flow for angel investors with 5K.
Well, who do you want to read it?
That's a good point. I think definitely I want it to be very builder focused, but also like investors, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I think that's the most important question is like, who do you want to read these products? Because if you're building for like kind of angel investors or seed stage VCs, the content is much different versus like someone that doesn't know how to build a company and they want tips or they want energy. Or
It's definitely more of the second one. Like we definitely want to be more builder focused.
Yeah, so I'd be like, all right, what do they want? Do they want tips? Do they want tactics? Do they want to hear stories of people like them and go do that? Like I think for the Milk Road, we were like, one version of this is we build it for our moms who know nothing about crypto. Another version for it is we build it for Jake Liu, who knows a ton about crypto and Furcon. And then it's like, or we build it for ourselves who are like somewhere in the middle, know a good amount, but don't like, aren't that deep. And I think that's a really important question when you're doing all these things. It's like, who do you want to read this? Like, because your newsletter, in my opinion, if you got only 10,000 people reading it, who do you want those 10,000 people to be?
Yeah.
Like, do you want them to be founders that could be in F.Inc? Do you want them to be investors, et cetera? That's how we thought about it.
That's a good point. Do you think that starting a newsletter or like starting a media company now is like a replacement for starting a startup if someone just wants the same kind of like, I'd almost say like type of work?
I think a media company is similar. I think, they're all both businesses that don't have, you have to figure a bunch out for both types of businesses. I think a newsletter is just, there's a cleaner playbook in my opinion. Like I think there's businesses that just have a really simple playbook. Whereas if you're trying to do like a crazy ambitious startup, you're kind of in the dark, right? There's still some playbooks maybe, but I think a newsletter is pretty straightforward. And like all I have to do is grow the audience, grow the readership and sell ads or monetize in some other way. Versus I think if you're doing something really ambitious, which not to say a media company can't be, but there's just like no playbook, right? If you're like, I'm going to build a rocket or I'm going to build a robotics company, it's just a lot harder. Yeah. And there's not like infrastructure you can plug into as easily.
So you ended up selling the Milk Road, but before that, what were you doing when you were like meeting Sean, like in the like years before?
Yeah,
that?
I was running. So my story is I was pretty early at a company called FanDuel. It's a sports betting startup. I was around employee 80. So I was there in early 2014. So I worked there, left to start a company with one of the co-founders, FanDuel. We were basically, for lack of a better term, arbitraging email addresses. So basically Budweiser came to us and they were like, hey, we want to pay for email addresses of beer drinkers. We'll pay like $3 for each one. And we were like, okay, we can build things on Facebook and get those email addresses for under $1. So we did that for like a year and change. And that's when I joined that mastermind that Sean was running at the time. And I was like, this is really hard to scale. Like they won't let us scale like at a level that's that interesting. We could get it to low 7 figures before they would be like, not let us scale beyond that. And couldn't find any other buyers of that idea. Like nobody else was really willing to pay a premium for just email addresses that we could find. And then also at the time, my co-founder had just passed away. So that's when I met Sean and I was like, I kind of want to do something else. Like I think this business is stuck in the mud. I don't see a clear path for it, nor is it that interesting to just be doing an arbitrage for that long of a period of time. Like an arbitrage that can't scale isn't that interesting to me. So that's when we became friends. And then I was like, all right, let's find some ways to test working together. That's what I was doing before.
I'm sorry to hear about your co-founder.
Yeah, it's okay.
And do you have a background in writing? Did you go to
Not
school
really.
for it?
I mean, I would say I'm good at growth and I'm good at like business development type stuff and I'm good at figuring things out. I'm resourceful.
Okay.
Writing was just like, all right, we're going to try writing every day and you're going to get better at it. And like, it was just a feedback loop like that. So Sean never wrote the Milk Road. He edited it at the beginning and then I wrote it for probably the first 4 months. And then I edited it and Diego wrote it for the next, 6 to 10 months after that.
So what do you know about writing now that like isn't kind of like top of mind to someone who's getting into it?
I mean, I think it's a lot of reps. Like, honestly, I think a lot of it is you need to be aware of what good writing is. So, I think Sam Parr said this yesterday, which is like copy other great writers' work. I mean, I do believe that. I never really did that, mainly because I'm lazy. But I think for me, it was like write a lot and be critical of my writing of where it could get better, and have a partner that can give you blunt feedback on like what you're writing, what is good about your writing and what isn't, and be honest with yourself on that. But a lot of it is just like consistently get better. And the Milk Road is like, we're writing every single day. So I had to get better. And the other thing that we tried to do is, one thing that Sean and I always talk about is to write like you talk.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And a lot of people don't do that. True. Like when you sit down and write a newsletter, you try to sound smarter.
It gets all formal.
It's all formal. So what we would do is, hey, send me a voice message before you write for 2 minutes and explain it. And if you can't explain it in words that I understand, or at the end, like let's say, for example, an example of a story might be, today in crypto, Do Kwon said something about, how he's really bullish on Near.
Okay.
It's a new L2 or something. I know most of the time what we're filtering for is like, is that actually interesting?
Yeah.
So it'd be like, would I ever tell my friend about Do Kwon saying he loves Near? Could I explain what Near is at all? Can I explain why he's talking about Near? And all the, like, that's more of what we were filtering for. Is like, is this actually interesting content? And then once it is, we can write for it. And some things you're just like, yeah, this is interesting. But a lot of the time you're like, I don't know.
Okay. And so in the first 4 months, it was just kind of you and Sean.
Yeah.
What were you just working on the Milk Road at that point?
Yeah, that was a full-time effort.
Okay.
And we probably scaled from 0 to 60,000 subscribers and 0 to, I don't know, $30,000 a month in revenue.
Okay.
In that time period.
So what did a day in your life look like?
Depends on the day. I mean, mostly it was writing great content.
Okay.
And trying to sell ads.
How much would that, like, how would you break that down?
I mean, early on, we were just like, how do we nail the product and make sure people like it?
Yeah.
So it's probably 80%. Like, what does this look like? How do we make the product better? How do we make sure people love this? How do we get quality feedback? How do we make sure we're acquiring the right subscribers? It was mainly like, are we sure that this is a good product before we try and scale the audience?
Yeah.
How do we know that?
How did you know that?
A lot of the time, the way we knew it is we would ask people to reply. We would get a bunch of DMs from people being like, I love the Milk Road. But I think that's one of the challenges of newsletters is like, if you don't get a lot of replies, you don't really know. Yeah, you can see open rates roughly and click-through rates roughly on your emails, but you don't really know that people love the thing. We'd also do things like, send it 2 hours late. Does anyone say anything? Or skip a day. Does anyone say anything?
How many people would say something if you skipped a day?
I think at the height, it'd be like, 100, 200. At the height of like people really, really care what's happening in crypto. And so that was like, we're trying to look for signal that people care about this thing in their inbox.
It's like you guys just overslept one day and you're like, yeah, it's a growth tactic to see if they actually like care about us. Yeah,
pretty much. We were like, oh shit, we want a rest day. Yeah. Can we now say this is a growth tactic? But that was kind of how we thought about it.
And then when did Diego come in?
Diego probably, I think he came in April. I don't know for sure. Somewhere between March and May. Okay. He was just someone that had DM'd us, like kept DMing us interesting things on Twitter. We're like, okay, he seems like he has the right type of energy. And that's what we want. Like we're generally looking for someone with the right type of juice and the right type of energy that's really excited. That's kind of the general prototype of a person that we want to work with. And he was that. He was like, hey, this is interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. So we gave him a trial. And at first he wasn't very good. Like I think he talks about this himself too. He wasn't very good. And then we were like, okay, we're not very good at explaining what it is that we want. Because Sean and I know how to work together. So we kind of know how to take feedback well. Yeah. But if you don't know how to do that, or we're not good at giving feedback, it's hard to succeed. So we were like, okay, how do we give him feedback that he can actually use? So over time, we kind of figured that out, which was talk about what you're going to write about, write it out, let's edit it over and over and over and over, talk about why we're editing things, etc. Got it. We were looking for humor, honestly. We're looking for humor, intelligence, good ability to filter stories.
Were you the one putting in the basketball references?
That was him. That was all three of us, honestly. Yeah.
Sean plays basketball too?
Yeah, Sean, Diego. Like we're all kind of the same level of humor. I think our humor is like 90s-ish retro stuff, which you guys are probably too young to get any of that.
I get most, well, the sports references you guys made, I would get, because I didn't know anything about crypto.
Yeah.
So I'd read it and be like, oh, how do these guys know about sports stuff?
Yeah. So like, we're kind of, I think in general, everything we do content wise pulls into the things we like a lot, right? So like the jokes are about 90s culture or sports or hip hop or whatever. Like I think that those come through a lot in the Milk Road, and that's just because the stuff we know and we like. And I'm a big believer that if you understand that stuff, it really connects versus like people that don't do shit like that. But obviously some people don't get it. Yeah. But that's okay.
We started, like both of us started working out of the Founders Inc. lab on like another startup, and I'd say June. And Safwan was kind of sitting at the table.
Yeah.
And I had seen the Milk Road on Twitter before, just from like being on Twitter, and Sean obviously has a lot of followers. And we're all like introducing ourselves. And Safwan's like, yeah, I run ads for like this newsletter. And that was the first time I think you had heard about it.
Yep.
Yeah, Safwan's great. Yeah, and Safwan was helping us for a while. Yeah, and I think the main thing we were trying to do is build a brand that people understood. And I don't know that we would have done this project had we not come up with the name. Like I think the name gave Sean and I a lot of confidence, and that was just I think that was the day after Christmas. We were just brainstorming ideas, and I had just thrown out. I just was rhyming. I was like Silk Road, Dilk Road makes no sense. Filk Road.
Great.
How about Milk Road? And
It's the creative process.
We were like,
over
all
here.
right, Milk Road. This is like 20 minutes, and we're like, yeah, it's Milk Road. We're doing this.
Wow.
And
The
that was
logo was sick.
Yeah, you guys came up with that in
Yeah.
like 10 minutes though, right?
not
One
the
of the
Milkman.
logos.
There's
Okay,
a first logo that was like before that was just like I just found a milk bottle on Google Images that I slightly adjusted, and that's how we came up with that logo. And then we were like, the Milkman himself was an evolution of Pepe the Frog, because we were like, we want a memeable character.
Yeah.
We want something that we think we can meme, so that's how that came about.
How do you find the balance between I was talking to I think Sawyer about this yesterday. It's like that balance between still like presentable but also like meme, like not cringy, but like still memeing things. And I feel like if you want to do a newsletter or anything related to copy now, you kind of have to have that for certain demographics.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of just testing it and seeing what feels right, in my opinion. Like there's no like dry and cut answer. It's just like, yeah, does this feel right? Do I love the product? Do I think it looks shitty or not? And what's the line?
Do you guys get? Sorry,
I think for the product, legibility matters a lot in this type of product. Like, can people read it? Do they understand it, etc.?
Are you big on like blockchain, like crypto as well, outside of the Milk Road?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I'm a pretty big believer. I think I'm generally still really positive. I think I'm a little disenchanted. I'm a little disillusioned by some of it.
Yeah.
But I still really believe in crypto. I really believe in Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think some of the stuff around NFTs I'm a little skeptical of.
Okay.
But I still believe in it.
What do you think the most applicable use cases are in the next 6 months?
In the next 6 months?
Yeah. Or like, what are the coolest use cases you've seen?
I mean, I think the best use cases are just a new financial system, like
Okay.
largely just that, which is just like the building blocks of everything, right? It's like everything should be tokenized in the financial system. I don't know that I buy that every single item will be tokenized, but I think the financial system on chain makes a lot of sense. I don't think that's going to happen in the next 6 months. I think, and then, I do think Bitcoin is at an interesting moment. Like everything that's happened in the last year should be really positive Bitcoin, right? It's like banks falling, global war, or, war in Europe, war overseas. So this should be a really positive, inflation going nuts. This should be a really positive moment for Bitcoin. And so far it hasn't really translated in the price action. And that might just be, that is probably just because it's an early asset. But I think I still really believe in Bitcoin and Ethereum.
What do you think has to change before like it starts to become applicable?
I think Bitcoin has generally performed pretty well, but I think, it just needs more adoption. I think right now it's not used globally as much as it needs to be, but it's also a store of value. To me, I'm not someone that professes to I'm like, yeah, I know how to think about things that are happening today.
Yeah.
And what needs to happen, I think, is just more adoption and more people viewing it as a store of value, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
And I think that has happened over time, but not enough.
Do you use like crypto for transactions with people overseas at all?
I have, yeah. I mean, I would say I've used crypto for overseas transactions a little bit. I think there's still like, I think that in general, I just don't do that many overseas transactions. But when I have, I do use crypto.
Okay, interesting. The reason I'm asking is I think one of the more interesting things we've been talking about at the lab related to blockchain is now there's like this big kind of like spurt in like generative AI content. And we're at a point where like you saw the Pope picture on Twitter.
Yeah.
You're starting to be able to, normal people can't discern the difference between an AI generated image and a normal image, especially if it's like on Instagram. So there was this picture I saw, or like this reel I saw that went viral, and it was someone saying like new like skydiving has been like cleared for toddlers. And it was a picture of their 6-month-old, multiple angles skydiving with no helmet on, attached to like an instructor. And the comments were like, yo, where can I do this in California? If you think about it, it's like, you probably shouldn't go skydiving with a 6-month-old. Yeah. Someone saw it in an Instagram video and now we're thinking it's real. Another thing is like, especially us, we have a podcast. There's a lot of hours of us talking on the internet. I don't know if we should put this in, but it's very easy for someone to kind of doctor a video of us saying something we never said, just because there's so much content on the internet of us speaking.
Yeah, man.
Send it to us.
Yeah, man. I think deep fakes are going to be a huge problem. I don't know. Maybe blockchain can solve that.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think there's a blockchain solution to that?
I think it's possible. Like, I do think that could be the killer use case, right? That like generative AI that actually like authenticating things could be on the blockchain. I don't really know where generative AI, like the speed that AI is moving at is insane.
It's terrible. You think it should get stopped? Nuke the data centers or whatever else that the petition's saying?
I don't think so, but I think there's a compelling argument for it.
Okay.
Just because I think if it gets stopped, it'll just happen again. Right now, the cat's kind of out of the bag, so you can't really stop it. I do think it's funny that Sam Altman like has that backpack that is like kind of if everything goes wrong, and he has like a private island that he's ready to fly to at any moment. So I do think that's kind of scary that like the leader of all of this is ready to do that at any moment, and everyone else is fucked if that happens. But I do think that could be a watershed moment for blockchain. I also just don't know like how much of this generative AI stuff is just novelty, right? Like I think the one I saw that was kind of scary is someone's daughter like was spoofed, or there was a deep fake of her calling her parents asking for $1 million and like acting like she was kidnapped, and they didn't let her hang up. And then I think the parents sent the $1 million and there was a deep fake. So like there's crazy stories like that, but I don't know in that use case how blockchain solves that. I think blockchain could solve specific things, right? Like,
sign in with a wallet before you can send money.
I think it could do things like, oh, this song was actually made by Drake, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
we got a guy that's changing the music industry.
You guys do?
Can we overlay the tweet, Eric?
Musicfy.
All right, what's he doing?
.lol. Didn't want to afford the .so, but
so
.lol.
he could take a Drake record, put the
Jake's
Weeknd's
laughing
voice
in the background.
on it, and then it sounds, but it can only rap the same lyrics.
Yeah.
But the voice, it sounds like the
so
Weeknd
Drake can
rapping.
sing like Ariana Grande.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
the
I've seen
Weeknd
that.
can sing.
Yeah, I've seen tools like that. That's pretty sick.
I think he got on a call with UMG and Republic Records. What's it called?
I tried to invest. He said no.
I love it.
I'll keep trying.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are cool. I'm just like, where does all this go? Like at some point, how they're gonna need to figure out how we know things are authentic or not.
Yeah. So there's the concept of the verifiability, right? Very basic.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things I heard that was interesting is not trusting things unless you can trace them to the source. So let's say like right now I have like an Instagram account. If it's verified and I post something on it, there's a 99% chance it was me unless my account was hacked or whatever, like side like case. If there was a way to replicate that on the blockchain where it's like, okay, you see this video of me talking and it's saying some like egregious things. If you can't trace it back to like, it was shared from here to here to here to here back to my account, it should just be discarded.
But yeah, it's still on the platform to discard it, right? Like what I struggle with is like, even if it's still on the platform distributing the content, right?
Yeah.
And like, even if you knew it was a fake Drake, it could still go viral on Twitter. Like
all it needs to get sent in the WhatsApp group chats and I'm finished.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is it's like, if someone made a fake thing of you saying something that was negative and it got shared on Instagram,
and
you're
still
like,
gonna get the hate for it. Yeah,
you're still gonna get hate, and like, how do people stop that? I don't know. Hopefully that's what Founders Inc. is working on. Hopefully you guys have companies solving that problem.
We got a few.
a couple.
You know?
Maybe
And
it's
maybe there's like watermarks. I don't know. I'm
that's
still
like the AI will sense to see if like you're in the image, and if you're in the image, it'll ask you before the post gets up if you can sign it with like your wallet to like verify that it can get posted.
Yeah.
But then every platform has to integrate that, otherwise it doesn't even matter.
But you know, I think that's like, yeah, it's still a lot on the platforms, right? And like the things that have distribution, and then I'm like, yeah, that's easy for you because like it's easy for normal people to do that because there's not that many deep fakes of us, hopefully.
But then like,
So like, what about like a celebrity that has thousands of those? Maybe they just decline everything. But I think, I don't know. I think it's at an interesting point. And I'm hoping that you guys solve that.
Yeah, but you know what the real question is? How do I use my NBA Top Shots to like buy a sandwich?
Yeah, I think NBA Top Shots aren't even worth a sandwich right now. So
Can you help me with
you
this?
know,
Can you make a call? Can you?
I think right now they're worth like half a sandwich
I'm
at
getting
best.
Killed. Yeah.
half a sandwich from where?
Maybe Subway. Maybe
Half a Subway?
Maybe.
Come
Those
on.
things- I mean,
Do you have any?
I do.
Yeah.
I probably lost like 10 grand on
Me
those.
too. Yeah.
But
At least. Yeah.
It's all
10
right.
grand.
At least. Yeah.
Ouch.
It's all right. Live and learn, you know.
I mean, we were up so much. I bought early, and then I kept
mean-
buying. Right.
I mean, they oversupplied this. They shocked the system with too much supply.
Yeah.
First, they constricted it too much, and then they shocked it with too much. Yeah, and they ruined it.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll ever come back.
You think because you have a background in like sports, and obviously you know in stadium experience, fan engagement. You think there is potential for an NFT platform to really get that right?
Maybe if it is, it's going to be Third Web. You know, Third Web's going to
think?
power whoever figures that out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it's like, you know, I think digital collectibles make sense, but I think when they're like oversupplied, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Is the main thing, right? It's like, and I think like, you know, there are markets like ticket collectibles, right? Like there's a market for hard ticket collectibles. Could there be digital collectibles that are NFTs? Yeah, for sure. I do buy that. Could there be? But I think it takes a lot of long-term thinking from sports organizations that generally don't have long-term thinking. They want money now. And I think especially in this market, they just take money from things that aren't long-term, and because that's just not their incentive isn't to do something long-term, right? It's to sell a sponsorship to someone that's willing to pay them the most money. But I do believe in it. Like I do believe in NFTs as collectibles. I do believe in some value in NFTs.
Yeah.
I just think things like, you know, I think like things like Bored Ape Yacht Club just don't execute on much other than more NFTs.
But
Like,
that's a story. Like, what's your opinion on this? Because
Yeah.
you come from crypto and also the creative side. Like, those two guys are like storytellers,
yeah.
and they're good at
genius
writing the
storytellers.
writers, right?
Yeah.
But it's like you're also a writer and a storyteller.
Yeah, I mean, they created IP that people found valuable.
Yeah.
I just don't like, you know, my main feeling towards all of this is that I think it makes some sense, but I'm also like, they don't ship anything other than more NFTs. And they're making a game, so maybe they will ship more, but like, you know, Proof Collective, which is, you know, at one point, I don't know, was probably worth $400,000 to join.
Yeah.
So I would say two things. Like, I think that concept is cool to be like, oh, this is 1,000 dope people that are in this group.
Yeah.
And they're highly curated. Like, I think that is true. That if that was true, there could be a membership that should cost $500,000 that's worth it, right? Because everyone in the group is insane. They're incredible. I don't think that was necessarily true with Proof Collective, but like, let's say that I think that could exist. I think the other challenge with it is this: they never shipped anything.
Yeah.
You know, all they shipped was more NFTs. I think you have to ship something of
These
real
events, though, right? Like you can exclusive, like
Yeah, but
Hampton is really interesting to me.
Stuff.
But I also think it's hard, you know, my other comment on Proof is like, it is also hard to be building, you know, they're essentially doing tokens as like a pre-seed raise, and then they have everyone watching them that is financially incentivized to ship things fast.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Like it, you know, that's hard. Like if Third Web launched an NFT that was tradable early, which they did, and then everyone was speculating on the price, and then they didn't ship things that increased the value of the NFT, people would be mad.
This
right?
is not sponsored by Third Web,
You know.
by the way.
Is it, Jake? Can it be sponsored by Third Web? Okay, it's
You know,
not
but
sponsored.
But I think
And we got the
you know,
C-suite, the co-founder here watching.
You know, but I think that's like, you know, that's the thing is like when you introduce speculative assets early,
Yeah.
you know, it's like even if Proof was trying to build a successful video game they have to, the only thing they felt would increase value is dropping more NFTs.
I had a friend, his name was Sigil. He had $sign Sigil, so he basically tokenized himself, and he was on what was it called, BitClout?
Oh, I've seen that kid before.
Yeah, and so he started getting death threats after his token value went down.
Damn, why?
Because people they're invested in him.
Yeah.
And then his token value is going down.
The thing is, like, in a lot of these things, he probably doesn't even know why it went up.
Yeah.
He's just like, I was doing the same thing then that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Do you think that will ever change with crypto? Like, you're always buying this as trying to get rich versus
that's human
actually investing in a
tendency.
project. I don't think that's human at all, because we spend money on tickets to games that we're just losing money watching these games. I'm just saying,
I think hopefully crypto turns into currency. And in some countries, it is necessary, right? Like in countries like Ghana or whatever, they need
Turkish
crypto.
lira. It's worth less than a square
They need
toilet paper.
crypto to transact on normal things. So I think what has been proven out definitively is that crypto has enabled a global casino. Like, I think that's very clear that has happened. Yeah. I hope that it becomes a lot more than that. I think that's like kind of the bearish case. The biggest bear case for crypto will be that it's a global casino. But also, I don't need to talk about crypto that much. Like, I like crypto, but I think part of the reason we sold was because Sean and I were both like, we like crypto, but it's not our life's work.
Okay.
We were like, we like crypto a lot. We really believe in it, but it is not the thing we want to spend the next 10 years thinking about.
How do you define what you want to spend the next 10 years on? Because I know you're still in that figuring out what the next. Yeah,
I think the thing I get the most juice from is entrepreneur content and entrepreneurship in general, which could include crypto, but I think just broadly entrepreneur stuff.
We're about to see another podcast come up.
Yeah, I don't know.
By Ben.
I don't know if we'll do that, but I think like MFM style, like basically the way I'm thinking about it is like blowing up MFM.
Okay.
Is more exciting than blowing up the Milk Road at this point.
It's valid. So one thing that MFM has done really well, and then Sam's also doing this with Hampton, is like this concept of like building a community of not high net worth, but like high quality people. What do you think goes into that? Because I feel like there's the scaling problem of when you get to a point where the community has helped each other build up, then people feel like they don't necessarily need the community anymore.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen before. So like, what do you think?
I think when communities are really hard to scale.
Yeah.
I think you guys are doing the same thing, right? Like Founders Inc. has a great
we
community
have an amazing
of people.
Community. Yeah.
I think a lot of it is like, I used to believe that too, that like, people only want to be there when you can help them. I actually don't think that's true. People are just looking for people that are smart and think similar to them. And everyone's obviously at a different level. I think the key is you want people at the same level as you, right? If you're like an early stage founder that's never built a company, you want to be around those people. If you're someone that sold your company for $100 million, you want to hang with people that are at the same stage of life. So I think I do still generally believe though that you don't want like thousands and thousands of people in those groups because it's just too much. It's too overwhelming. They don't scale very well. But I really believe in it. Like I think you just make things that I think the main reason I believe in content is like it scales really well. If you just talk about the stuff you want, you're going to attract people like you.
That's interesting. Do you try to do content much yourself from like your own personal accounts, or is it always business?
Not really. Like I try to, Sean and I brainstorm a lot of content behind the scenes that mostly he'll put out. I don't do that much myself, but I do talk to a lot of people.
Gotcha. So you said that people want to be around kind of people in their similar like life stage. Who do you try to hang out with now these days?
I like to just hang out with people with good energy, good juice. I think I like people that are building companies, like generally speaking, like, anyone that's building a company, I like to talk to and hang out with, whether it be, I would say, maybe it's someone that isn't doing I think that's the main thing. I'm looking for someone with good energy, optimistic about the future, and is building a company. Those are the main people I like to hang out with.
And Suns fans.
Yeah, and Suns fans too. I like to hang out with Suns fans, but it's all good.
Do you think that'll be the future of podcasting too? Like in terms of these live shows and like bringing together fans, even if you have a smaller following? Maybe
like, I don't know. Like I think live shows are great for brand building.
Yeah.
I don't think, I personally feel like they're great for brand building because it's cool to see people in person. It's cool to meet other fans. At the same time, I also think, that doing something in your ears every day is really valuable. I think most shows should do a live show, even if it's small. And even if the format is a little wonky or a little weird or different than what the normal show is. But I'm not sure that I would say it's the future. I would say like it is one tool to help people meet each other.
Yeah.
Most people there yesterday probably talked to someone else, but not everyone. There's other ways to do it. Like I know that All In Pod has a bunch of meetups in a bunch of cities that I'm assuming people also love. So I think there's a bunch of different ways to attack that. But I don't know. I think like building a community is really hard and harder than it seems. And just that's what you guys do at F.Inc. And I think it's just a different type of work than building an audience through content. Like how many people are in Founders Inc. right now?
I'd say our Discord is a few hundred people now.
How many people are in person?
It's like a rotating crew because people come in and out. But I'd say at any given moment, we have maybe like 50, 60 people at the lab.
Yeah,
Is that an
I think
overestimate?
80, 90 founders.
Yeah, 80, 90 founders. As far as active on like, a lot of them are active on Twitter. You'll see them in each other's comments, like hanging out with each other, posting pictures. People come to the lab on Fridays for like open co-working. And so that's like another like 50 to 100 extra people.
Yeah.
And I think the really cool thing about F.Inc. is that I think it's a little contrary to what you said, but we're bringing together people from completely different stages. And so it's like the people who are earlier in their career or like building their first company, they get access to like Furkan and Uber, and they can ask like Farza or Sharif. Someone who's building, I guess more like Farza or Sharif, they get access to like other people that are at their level. And it's just like the friend element of like SF, you move to a new city, you're working on this company, you just raised a bunch of money. Who do you hang out with? Who do you like just spend time with outside of that? And everyone's a founder. So it gives you that like base layer of like, I can be friends with pretty much anyone here.
Yeah. And I think, for some people, it's not about the level. It's about the environment, the juice, what's happening. Like, is it inspiring? Is it exciting? Is it motivating? More than the level people are
Absolutely.
at. So yeah, like I think that makes a ton of sense.
What do you think the best community you've seen online is?
It's a tough question. I think like the communities I'm personally in are Twitter. Like honestly, like I don't know that I'm in like a community where it's like someone is running it so incredibly well. It's just that Twitter is a great way to meet people. So mainly it's just like, the community I'm in that I feel the best about is Twitter.
Okay.
And, having somewhat of I have some followers on Twitter so I can DM people and they'll respond and I can talk to them. I don't know that I'm in like a incredible community beyond that. I'm in group chats or I'm in Signal groups or I'm in Telegrams or I'm in WhatsApps or Slacks, and they're all okay. The only other community I would say that I read but don't engage in is I am like in a Suns Discord that I read often.
Timeline.
But I don't engage often, but I read it. I mainly just think Twitter is incredible. Like I think Twitter is the best network, the best community that exists.
How did you grow your following on Twitter to get to the point where you can just DM anyone?
One, I think you don't need to have that much of a following to DM anyone. Just write a good bio and write a few interesting tweets, even if they get no traction. And I think that's good enough for you to have like a pretty strong response rate if you know how to DM people and say something kind of interesting. So one, I don't think my following matters that much. And two, I just grew my following because Sean mentioned me like 10 times or 20 times. Sean's mentioned me a handful of times on his Twitter and tagged me. Nice. And that has mostly been why I've grown my following. And I've had maybe 2 or 3 tweets that did okay.
Do you get a lot of inbound?
Yeah, I get a lot of people DMing me.
What's the most interesting thing you've ever kind of gotten DM'd?
I'd say the most interesting thing that came from Twitter was a guy that founded Silk Road reached out before to talk to us. So one of the main 3 guys, I don't know did you guys read the book American Kingpin? No. So there's like 3 core people, and one of them was this guy named Smedley, who's like the core dev or one of the core devs. I don't know if he's the main dev, one of the core devs, and he reached out and we got into Zoom with him.
Nice.
Which is crazy.
What do you think separates you replying to a DM from you just like ignoring it completely? Let's say a good bio, maybe they have some followers.
I think one is like, what's the ask?
Okay.
Like in general, don't really want to get on a call unless it's interesting. So it's like, okay, what can you say that's going to be interesting enough for, like, what are you hoping to have happen? Like, I think the best DMs are like someone that like, if they want us to invest in their business or they want us to advise or do something like that, it's like, tell me about your company and then keep telling and like show that you've made progress over time.
Like progress updates every few weeks.
Versus like just a call. A lot of people will ask about how to run a newsletter. I think it's also just persistence, right? It's like show that you're smart and that you care enough to get on a call or meet in person, and I'll do it. Also just timing, because a lot of it is like, I'm not trying to ignore you. I'm sure this is true for most people. It's like, once you get enough inbound, you're like, I'm not trying to ignore anyone.
Yeah.
But, if you send a message and I see it and I forget to respond, it's kind of, you have to follow up and say something. That's the main thing. Like, I think when I was younger, I'd take it personal if people didn't respond to me. But now that I see it, I'm like, well, it's hard to respond to everyone.
Yeah.
And like, it's not a personal thing. And most of the time I intend to reply. Like even my friends, if I accidentally ignore them, it's not on purpose. It'll just be like, yeah, I forgot to respond.
You're going through Furkan's DMs, right?
Like Furkan's probably got that too, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like I'm sure he gets so much inbound, and like I know Furkan's a really nice guy.
He also tweets out just like, hey, we're looking for two founders to come work out of the lab on some project.
Forgets he tweeted.
Yeah, I mean, Sean does this. Sean, that'll happen with Sean too, right? He'll like say, hey, I'm looking for a designer, and like 100 people will reach out, and then it's like, oh shit, now we have 100 people to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't say anything, understandably, they feel like they were ghosted.
Yeah.
So I think like part of that is like figuring out how you want to respond or who you want to respond to.
Yeah.
I will say, it's the same.
I think one of the things that I've found from reaching out to people and like getting higher success rates. When I was younger, I did a marketing agency, and so a lot of it in the beginning was just cold outreach, saying like, "Hey, let me make a video for you for free."
Yeah.
Sending work samples. Don't just say, "Hey, I'm interested," and expect them to check your profile. Imagine they're not going to read anything beyond that one message. Yeah,
and I think it's like, what do you want? Like, what is the purpose of this? Is just to say what's up?
Yeah.
Is it to, which is cool. I don't mind that. I also think, minimizing clicking out, like makes a big difference.
Don't send links with no context.
Because if you're like, hey, here's like 10 Google Drive links that I need you to click on. I'm like, even if it works great, like I'm just like, I don't know that I want to click on load this Google Drive. I'm like on my phone most likely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure you see it with Furkan too. Like I'm sure he gets a ton of inbound. Yeah. I'm sure he intends to reply to most people.
He actually does an insanely good job of replying to people. Like I remember when I first met him, it was at the Third Web event at ETH Denver last year. So I went in, I got an invite from, I think, Reza. I talked to Caddy. Caddy introduced me to Jake. And then Jake, I think, eventually introduced me to Furkan. And on the spot, he like followed me. He like sent me a DM. I'll reply to you. I sent him a DM like the next day. He actually replied right away. I got his phone number. He was very quick about replying. And I asked him, I was like, how do you reply to so many people? He just like says, I just leave my DMs open, reply to anyone who seems interesting. He's very nonchalant about it.
Yeah.
And he's done a good job of picking people out.
Yeah. And I think it's
slightly biased.
It's a good thing to do, but and Furkan does text me back pretty fast too. And I text him.
He texts me like 5 seconds. It's the weirdest thing ever. It's the most jarring thing.
Yeah.
LOL.
Yeah. I think, I think it's cool though. Like I think there's a lot of people like Mark Cuban, I think has that reputation that he responds really fast to emails and says things. Like I've heard people say that. Unfortunately, I used to be that way. I'm no longer good at replying. I feel bad about it, but I'm no longer good at replying.
But you read all of it?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the time I read it, but I just forget. Or it's just like,
makes sense.
Oh, if I reply to you, now we're gonna be in like it's
gonna be an exchange.
It's just gonna be an exchange, which I'm not opposed to, but I'm just got to be like in the moment where I know I'm gonna have a 15-minute chat, via text or whatever.
What's the most non-aggressive, non-passive aggressive way to follow up with someone? Like I've gotten people who just send me the carrot up.
I think what Sean would say I'm really good at, I don't know if I'm good at it, but it's like sending interesting things, right? So it'd be like, oh, I heard that, you guys, like let's say Furkan, for example, instead of just being like, hey, what's up? Or like, hey, when can you get on a call over and over? You're like, oh, hey, I saw this thing about Third Web, or I saw this thing about Near, or I just saw something that I think you're interested in, right? Yeah. I know you have a mobile games background. Did you see this deal that happened, or did you see this cool mobile game someone launched? Because then I think your reputation is now someone that knows how to think and find interesting things, rather than just like someone that's constantly asking for a call.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I see that you know what you're doing, right? And like I think the people that we've hired or worked with generally are going to be more like that. Or if you're like pitching for an investment, it'd be like, hey, I know you didn't respond a month ago, but I had $10,000 of revenue then. Now I have 15,000. Here's what we changed. Like I'm not, I don't like. I think that's a lot more powerful than being like, when can I get on a call over and over? Is my experience.
I got a nugget. If anyone makes it this far and wants Furkan to open an email or a DM,
hopefully at least one person makes it this far.
This is what you put in the subject line. Why does Malik Monk get every single foul call?
Yeah, he'd open that.
I promise you he'll open it.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.
You could do one. You can do that one, or isn't Kevon Looney so impressive with his offensive rebounding?
Yeah.
Do either one of those.
Yeah, or just in general, just something that stands
It's funny
out.
because
Like,
he's gonna get to this part. He's gonna get to this part.
I think if you just write
I'll make sure anyone with that. I'm gonna ask him every day. Hey, did you ever get an email about Malik Monk?
Yeah, yeah, and like same thing for Sean. It's like or me. It's like if you write a funny email, you're gonna get a response. No guarantee you're gonna get what you want, right? If it's a job or an investment, but I think you're at least gonna get someone's attention. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just like show your work and be interesting.
I think we'll hit you with the. You want to do Twitter? Or you want to do the rapid fire?
I feel like Twitter would be too long. Let's do the rapid fire.
All right, we'll hit you with some rapid fire questions, and we'll
Let's
wrap. Start off easy. What's the best book you've ever read?
American Kingpin.
American Kingpin. What's it about?
It's about Silk Road. I referenced it earlier. It's about Silk Road. Great book.
Awesome.
Incredible book.
Who's your best friend?
This guy named Ryan Waits.
Why?
We've been friends for 10 years, and I trust him more than anyone, and just a good dude.
Awesome. One app you can't live without.
Twitter.
Don't say Twitter.
All right. Like if I don't say Twitter, I would say Twitter's the only answer.
Okay, great.
All right.
What's the best advice you've ever gotten? Specifically about, let's just say, writing newsletters.
About writing newsletters?
Or business.
Well, that's
like,
really specific.
Yeah.
I think play long-term games.
Okay.
So I think every mistake I've made in my life is like just thinking too short-term and making stupid decisions because of that.
Okay. What's the worst advice you've ever received about newsletters?
About newsletters, that it's easy.
I'm going to let him hit you with one, and we're going to wrap on that.
Okay. You own the Suns tomorrow, right? What's the first personnel decision you'd make?
Well, I'd trade DeAndre Ayton in second. If you want to, that's my answer.
All right. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Ben M. Levy.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.